Welcome to 75 Stories, a podcast created to commemorate the 75th anniversary of Normandale Lutheran Church in Edina, Minnesota.
Hi, my name's Amy James, and I joined Normandale Lutheran Church in 1997 with my husband. We had two children, Allison and Lindsay, who were baptized here and were raised in this congregation. I worked at Normandale in the church office as the director of lay ministry. I was hired with that title in 2006 until 2015. And over that period of time, I was responsible for the new member classes, kind of the welcome of anyone coming into the congregation, and then plugging them in, finding who they are, finding out their gifts, their abilities, what they bring to us, and where they're excited, their interests with what they see before them, and kind of matching them up with Bible studies or opportunities or just ways to be with other people, peer groups that they might enjoy. So my favorite thing about my job was that welcome. I think it's a gift that I was able to bring to that role. The director of lay ministry title, after I got here, I didn't know what it meant. So we started the process of what else could we call this that would give it a kind of a fresh take on what we're actually trying to do. So at some point, we as a team came up with the director of connections, because that's really what we were trying to do, was connect people further to the church, further to each other. And so it evolved into that role. It was a wonderful time for me. I had a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and it was a part-time job, which allowed me time to be at home, but ample time to get out and do something with gifts that I had. And that was a very fulfilling time in my life. I loved working for the church. I will always treasure the time that I had on staff. It was beautiful. The greatest challenge I think I faced when I was working at church was my employer was God. And I got frustrated. I didn't feel like I could do all that needed to be done sometimes with the resources we had here as a church or that I had within myself. Ultimately, I know now that God will take care of his church. But I think when I was in the role, it was difficult to remember that I wasn't totally responsible for membership all by my little self. That God would take care of his church. And that was tough to carry. And it took the faith of the others in the office and the faith of the congregation itself often to remind me that I wasn't responsible for membership, which nationally is declining. But that was hard. That was really hard. As a team, I think we were addressing it all the time. And again, God is going to take care of his church, so it was never up to me. I came off staff, left of my own accord. I mean, there was no bad anything when I left. I just decided I needed to stop. It was 9 months later, Bob Sannerud called me and said, hey, would you consider coming on council? Because the way it should work is that past presidents are supposed to be the recruiting committee for council. And I said, well, is that a good idea? Because I was just on staff. And he said, actually, he and other former council members had spoken, and I was on a short list. He said, actually, we'd really like you as a staff member. So I feel grateful that I was asked and called out because I was a staff member to come on. I don't know why that was, but I did think about it very hard and considered maybe I shouldn't. But then I was asked, and I wanted to say yes. I usually say yes to as many things as I can at church, and so I said yes. I would say the first year I sat back and tried to just absorb and not say too much. But then over time, what I kind of realized is my voice was really important as a former staff member to either speak for the staff that are there who can't speak, who aren't in the meeting, or to bring some history. Hey, we tried that. Or, hey, we had great success with this. Or, hey, if we think about it another direction, we can come at it this way and maybe experience depth in a new way. I was grateful to be asked and really enjoyed my time. By the end, it was hard to leave. By the end, I really enjoyed being on the council and the people that I met and the relationships that I made. Pastor Paul kind of asked me, as you look around, do you think there's anyone who might be good for your role? And I said, Jenny Bach. She was the council president. She came on staff. I ended up going on the council. We didn't do a flip-flop of positions. I ended up actually taking Caitlin Everett's position and fulfilling part of her role. And then 2 full months, I served for 8 years, which is probably the longest anyone has ever served. But nobody asked me to leave, so I was really happy. I know now, Pastor Dale used to tell me when I would get anxious moments about that my programs weren't capturing people or people weren't attaching to the things we were trying to put out there, Pastor Dale would tell me, we're in good hands, not ours. And that has stayed with me. I'll always remember that.
We are so glad you joined us today here at 75 Stories. If you'd like to share your own story, please contact Christy Shepard at kshepard@normluth.org. Join us next week for another story, and share this podcast with your friends and family. We are all part of the Normandale community.